the Law of One Breakdown channel. Have you ever wondered what the raw material actually says about Jesus, free will, sexuality, and even hair? Each week we go straight to the original sessions and explore one topic through the pure wisdom of the Law of One. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this subject. Let's begin. Hello, in this episode I'm going to be talking about dreaming and what Ra has to say about it. Dreaming has always been something that I just loved. As a child and as a teenager, I would remember my dreams, and a lot of times they seemed more real than when I woke up. And then through a chunk of my life, I would remember my dreams here and there, but not like it was when I was younger. And then just a few months ago, basically when I started making these videos, my dream life came back to life, so to speak. I'm having crystal clear dreams again, and since making up these slides, I'm sort of thinking about my dreams in a different way now. It makes them that much more interesting, and I know now that there's a healing element to dreaming as well. So let's just get started. In session 86.12, Dawn asks, is there any other function of dreaming that is of value in the evolutionary process? It's a good question. And Ra says, although there are many which are of some value, we would choose two to note. Since these two, though not of value in polarization, may be of value in a more generalized sense. And what Ra meant by value in polarization, the real reason that third density comes about, which is where we're at right now, is polarizing in one direction or the other, positive or negative, service to self, service to others. And that's what that meant. It continues on in session 86.12. The activity of dreaming is an activity in which there is made a finely wrought and excellently fashioned bridge from conscious to unconscious. In this state, the various distortions which have occurred in the energy web of the body complex due to the mistakes with which energy influxes have been received are healed. With the proper amount of dreaming comes the healing of these distortions. Continued lack of this possibility can cause serious distorted mind-body-spirit complexes. So I never knew that about dreams, not about healing properties and whatnot. I do know that when we drop down into delta level brainwaves, it's sort of like, I call it the void, because you have no memory of anything. It's just nothing. It's not black void. It's not anything. But your autonomic nervous system kicks in and starts healing your body. That's why deep sleep, and it's a dreamless state, is also very healing. But I didn't know that dreaming in and of itself had healing qualities. This continues on as well in session 86.12. The other function of the dreaming which is of aid, is that type of dream which is visionary, and which prophets and mystics have experienced from days of old. Their visions come through the roots of the mind and speak to a hungry world. Thus the dream is of service without being of a personally polarizing nature. However, in that mystic or prophet desires to serve, such service will increase the entity's polarity. In session 86.15, Dawn asks, if it is of any value to know, would you tell me why the dreaming process works like that? And Ra states, the portions of the dreaming process which are helpful for polarization and also for the vision of the mystic take place in time-space, and consequently use the bridge from metaphysical to physical for what seems to be a brief period of your space-time. And I'll get into space-time, time-space in 1 second. The time-space equivalent is far greater. The bridge remains, however, and traduces each distortion of mind, body, and spirit as it has received the distortions of energy influxes, so that healing may take place. This healing process does not occur with the incidence of rapid eye movement, but rather occurs largely in the space-time portion of the mind-body-spirit complex, using the bridge to time-space for the process of healing to be enabled. Okay, so space-time, time-space. Space-time is our incarnative experience. It's here. It's what we're doing right now. Time-space is also called metaphysical space to Ra. Some people call it soul space, LBL space, life between life space. And what's interesting is Ra states that healing of every kind happens in time-space, to a portion of you in time-space that's still there, and then it gets properly seated within the physical body. And when I do a session on healing, I'll make sure I include that session. Okay, in session 86.10, Dawn asks, is the memory that the individual has upon waking from the dream usually reasonably accurate? Is the dream easily remembered? And Ra says, you must realize that we are overgeneralizing in order to answer your queries, as there are several sorts of dreams. However, in general, it may be noted that it is only for a trained and disciplined observer to have reasonably good recall of the dreaming. This faculty may be learned by virtue of a discipline of the recording immediately upon awakening of each and every detail which can be recalled. This training sharpens one's ability to recall the dream. The most common perception of a mind-body-spirit complex of its dreams is muddled, muddied, and quickly lost. I'm a little on the lazy side, and a lot of times I won't write down really cool dreams or very vivid dreams just because I'm lazy, you know? So what I've started to do now that my dream time experiences have come alive again, I have a little recorder next to my bed. And when I wake up, I just turn it on and I just blah, blah, blah about, 1 to 2 dreams that I recall. So that's an easy peasy way to record your dreams. And that's what Ra's saying. If you start getting in that discipline of recording immediately upon waking, you'll get better and better at it. You'll remember more and more. Okay, in session 86.8, Dawn asks, how is the dream designed or programmed? Is this done by the higher self, or who is responsible for this? And Ra says, in all cases, the mind-body-spirit complex makes what use it can of the faculty of the dreaming. It itself is responsible for this activity. So Ra's saying we're responsible for it, our subconscious mind, our conscious mind. So that's interesting. In session 86.9, Dawn asks, then are you saying that the subconscious is responsible for what I would call design or script writing for the dream? Is this correct? And Ra says this is correct. Now Ra also says that there's different types of dreams. And Dawn didn't ask, well, what other types of dreams are there? So we never got that answer because Ra just doesn't give free information because the Ra folks don't want to infringe on our free will. So Dawn has to ask the question. But there are different types and styles of dreams. There's the dream that we're all familiar with. And then I've had experiences where it wasn't a dream. I mean, it might have been in a dream time state, but it was contact with a non-human. And it was really, really cool. And I've had other experiences where I'm in a trance-like state. I'm in theta level brainwaves, and I know because when I first started doing hypnosis, I built a little EEG machine and I'd hook my clients up, so I always knew exactly where they were at. And it's when they're in the theta level, that's where the magic really happens. And same with meditation. And what happens to me when I'm in theta level brainwaves is that my hands, it's like they don't exist anymore. It's not like they're numb. It's like I don't have 2 hands. I could feel the rest of my body. I could feel it in bed or in a chair, but my hands just disappear. And so that's kind of my tell to myself, I think, that, I'm in theta. Okay, let's utilize this space. And so I've had some really interesting experiences. I don't even call them dreams. I call them spiritual experiences in those states as well. And had Dawn asked, Ra would probably have stated something very similar, I would imagine. Okay, in session 95.18, Dawn asks, a question has been asked which I'll ask at this time. In processing the catalyst of dreams, is there a universal language of the unconscious mind which may be used to interpret the meaning of dreams? Or does each entity have a unique language of its unconscious mind which it may use to interpret the meaning of dreams? That's a great question. Because if you've ever been to a bookstore, there's 1,000,001 dream interpretation books. So Ross says, there is what might be called a partial vocabulary of the dreams due to the common heritage of all mind-body-spirit complexes. Due to each entity's unique incarnational experiences, there is an overlay which grows to be a larger and larger proportion of the dream vocabulary as the entity gains experience. So there's some common ground, but each and every one of us sort of develops our own interpretation if we're recording our dreams and trying to glean information. Okay, in session 83.3, Ross states, firstly, let us establish that both before and after the veil, the same conditions existed in time-space. That is, the veiling process is a space-time phenomena. So the veil is that we come to space-time, we incarnate, as an example, here on planet Earth. Other beings do it on other planets. And the veil is that we come here with no memory of our past lives, of other stuff we've done, maybe on other planets, if we're a starseed or a wanderer, or are we an earthseed. We have to come in here with a kind of a clean slate, and that has everything to do with free will. And it gives us the opportunity, although it doesn't seem like it sometimes. I would rather have my memories, quite frankly, but it gives us the opportunity to choose a polarity, negatively or positively oriented. Service to self, service to others is how Ra words it. And the choice we make here by the free will carry on to the other densities and will expand on that choice. So that's what the veil actually is all about. Okay, and then Ra says, secondly, the character of experience was altered drastically by the veiling process, in some cases such as the dreaming and the contact with the higher self. The experience was quantitatively different due to the fact that the veiling is a primary cause of the value of dreams and is also the single door against which the higher self must stand waiting entry. So your higher self will help you out and guide you, but it can't just swoop in and, make your decisions for you and push you and direct you. That's not the purpose of the free will experience. Okay, in session 83.3, Ra states, before veiling, dreams were not for the purpose of using the so-called unconscious to further utilize catalysts, but were used to teach from teach learners within the inner planes as well as those of outer origins of higher density. As you deal with each subject of which you spoke, you may observe during the veiling process not a quantitative change in the experience, but a qualitative one. So before the veil, when third density existed, dreaming was used, it sounds like, to be in contact with higher density beings, probably both positive and negative, and inner plane beings. The inner planes are interesting. There are inner and outer planes to each density. And then when the veil was established to be the way this third density is going to be, at least, the dreaming process changed. And it was more for us to learn about ourselves, but there's still contact in there too. Okay, well, that was the last slide I have for dreaming, and I hope it educates anyone who listens to the process of dreaming and why it's established this way and what you can do with it, really. Like I said, Dawn never asked, what are the other sorts of dreams? Because Rolf specifically said that, but he didn't ask, and so we don't specifically know the others, but I told you about a couple experiences that I've had in dream time and trance-like states, and I'm sure many, 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 many other people have had the same experiences. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and take care, everyone.